I had my pool redone back in 2020. Part of that remodel included 2 new lights for the pool plus 1 for the spa. These were very expensive, costing nearly $1,300 each with only a 1-year warranty, but I assumed that because they were LEDs that they would last for years. I was wrong. After 3 years, they started to fail. I looked to see what the cost would be to replace the interior boards, and the prices I found shocked me. Not wanting to spend $3,000 or $4,000 again, I settled on using the Florida Sunseeker replacement lights. They would fit inside my existing pool housings and would only require me to add a transformer to reduce the existing 120 lines down to 12 volts for the lights. Outside of that, they would work pretty much the same as the originals and would cost just 1/3 the price. It sounded like a promising solution. After I placed my order, I stumbled across a video on the YouTube channel The Hookup. This is one of my favorite channels, and the host Rob does an outstanding product comparison series that really helped when it came time to purchase my robot pool cleaner as well as my robot mower. I found one of his older videos on how to build your own pool lights using individually addressable LEDs. When I saw the video and realized the major benefits I would get if I could pull this off, such as dimmable infinite colors and no longer having to power cycle the lights to change those colors, I knew that was the way I wanted to go. I returned the Sunseeker lights and set about finding a way to implement Rob's solution. My pool has 3 lights, with 2 larger fixtures in the pool and 1 small one in the spa. The wiring for all of these runs from the pool controller through a shared conduit pipe. There's 1 power wire for the 2 pool lights and a power wire for the spa light, both of which are toggled by the controller. The conduit also has a 3rd power line to connect an outdoor AC outlet near the end of the run. Rob's solution centers around purchasing a 12 or 24 volt transformer that will convert an existing 3-wire AC setup into a 2-wire DC power source, which is then connected to a DigUno controller. That controller reuses the existing wires that run to the pool light housing, using 2 wires for DC power and the 3rd wire for sending data to control the LEDs, which you install inside the housing. I wanted to leave the AC outlet functional, and because all 3 power lines in the conduit shared the same ground and neutral wires, I settled on a plan to install 3 boxes, each containing a 12-volt transformer and a DigUno controller at each light's conduit access point. I would abandon the 120-volt lines being managed by the pool controller and instead just daisy-chain everything off the single 120-volt outlet power line, since the DigUnos would be handling the on-off operation. I started by pulling the existing lights out and examined the internals. While no water had gotten into the housings, there was rust and signs that humidity and condensation inside the housing had been slowly taking its toll on the LED board's components. Given that this is exactly the environment they're expected to operate in, I'm surprised they're not manufactured to compensate for this issue, but what do you expect for $1,300? I purchased both 9-watt and 30-watt LEDs from Amazon, along with the recommended aluminum plates, which I cut using tin snips to match the footprint of the old boards I had pulled from the original housings. I used strong adhesive strips to tack the LEDs down, and then I filled in the gaps with thermal paste. Taking Rob's design a step further, I tried to add as many LEDs as the fixtures would hold. I created a 6-light layout from the smaller 9-watt LEDs that Rob used, and I also created another design using 2 of the more powerful 30-watt LEDs along with a single 9-watt LED to try to get the maximum wattage into the housing. Ultimately, they both seemed to perform about the same. I took a quick detour from this project to see just how effective these lights could be in a different application. For many years on Halloween, I'd been suiting up as a 9-foot-tall Pumpkin King. I took 2 of the 30-watt LEDs along with a 9-watt and mounted them inside the head of the costume. I hooked them up to trigger switches in the hands to fire off the lights when I jumped at trick-or-treaters. The effect was fantastic enough that I'll be leaving these LEDs in the costume permanently and purchasing new ones to continue with the project on the pool. Once I connected the lights to the conduit wires, they began to flicker wildly and would not respond to the controller. It turns out that once you begin to use longer cables with wires that are in close proximity to each other, like you would find in a wiring conduit, the DigUno needs to change the way it operates the lights. This scenario had been anticipated by the DigUno's creators, and a simple flip of a dip switch to change the resistance was all that was needed to fix the problem. The last light I changed was the spa light, which had a much smaller housing. I opted to use a single 30-watt LED by itself that I mounted to the smaller plate. One minor hurdle was the fact that the grounding wire was not readily accessible like it was on the larger fixtures. In fact, it was not visible at all, being buried in a resin that filled the back of the housing. The only way I could access it was to drill into the resin searching for the wire. I accidentally drilled into the wire itself and was forced to solder a pigtail onto it to make the data connection. I zip-tied the transformer and the DigUno inside each box and drilled a hole for the antenna to poke through. I also added a new Wi-Fi access point to ensure good connectivity. Finally, I was ready to fire the whole thing up and test it out.
It is. Full control. That's 6 9-watt LEDs. Heck yeah, baby.
I'm absolutely thrilled with the results. There's no more power cycling to change colors, and I can switch to any color instantly simply by tapping on the color wheel. I also have full dimming control, as you can see here, something I didn't have before. Effects are lots of fun, although I doubt I'll use them all that often as it's likely to induce a seizure. So how does it compare to the originals? Every bit as bright and probably even brighter. And best of all, every single component involved is replaceable by me, and no single part is more than $50, so I'm no longer beholden to the expensive light manufacturers. I have to say that is very liberating.